Welcome back to Down to Earth. We've been talking about what the gospel is. What does Jesus think it is? What does the rest of the New Testament think it is? Today, are going to be talking about sort of what makes the gospel good news for us and just for the whole world. Before I get straight to that, I want to make a quick clarification that says um, saying that the kingdom of God has come near is the same thing as saying Jesus is Lord. Both are the gospel, and they're kind of just different ways of saying the same gospel. Because Jesus is the king who brought God's kingdom to earth. Um, so the two are intimately tied together, and I will use both to describe what the gospel is, just so you just so as you know. All right, so moving on, I've thought to myself sometimes, how would I describe this understanding of the gospel to a child? And I'm sure there's maybe different ways of doing it, but one way I've thought of is by saying it um, like it's in a school context, where uh, when you're getting close to the end of a school year, it's getting close to summertime, and you find out who your teacher is in the next upcoming year. You find out who your class is and who your teacher is. That can come as bad news that makes you go home and cry if you know that the teacher for next year is going to be, very mean, grumpy, um, super strict, or it can be gospel. It can be good news if you know that the teacher you're going to have um, can really get a good hold of the classroom. They can, make the misbehaviors listen. They have a good sense of humor. They give you a good amount of homework, not too much, not too little. It can be good news depending on who is in charge of the classroom. And I'm going to say the same thing about uh, Jesus being king or being Lord of the world. Uh, you could say that the good news is Jesus is Lord, but you could also say it the other way around and say the good news is that the Lord is Jesus. Because when you get to know Jesus, who he was, how what type of person he was, how he treated people, the things he taught, how and why he died, and then how he rose again. All of these things, if you really get to know him, you would start to think that, hey, I want that guy in charge. And the good news is that he is. Um, he is king, and nothing and no one else is. Uh, you know, um, the devil and all the powers of hell are not in charge. Sin, all the powers that make you not be the person you were created to be, those are not in charge. Uh, Donald Trump, no other president or prime minister is in charge of the world but Jesus. Um, Hate, disunity, racism, all of those things Jesus cut and fatally stabbed at the root when he lived and died and rose again. Um, you could ask the very good question about why doesn't it always seem to be that way? Like, the world still seems like a chaotic and dark place a lot. So, why is that the case? And that is a great question that I don't fully have time to answer. It's like, let's say there's this classroom that's super chaotic and kids are standing on chairs and throwing things, and the new teacher, the new good, great teacher walks into the classroom. It'll take a period of time for that teacher to settle down the kids, get them seated again, and bring some order back to that classroom. And in the same way, certain passages in the Bible talk about Jesus putting all his enemies, or God putting all of Jesus's enemies under his feet, which means sort of under his control. Um, and it will take a period of time to do that. And we don't know exactly how long that is or why exactly a period of time needs to take place. Those are complex questions. We do know, however, that the process has begun. Jesus is, in fact, the teacher of the classroom. He is Lord of the world. Um, this process has begun, and the promise has been made that it will come to an end, and things will fully come into line with his kingship and with his kingdom coming to earth. And that, in short, is the gospel. See you next time.